Today I'm doing a mini retrospective on the career of Chris Sun.
Welcome to Australia.
Now, if you don't know who Chris Sun is, I'll give you the lowdown, straight from the source's mouth and fingertips. So, before I get into my reviews, I just want to give you a brief biography, an overview of who Chris is, who Chris Sun, the filmmaker, is. So, Chris was born in Queensland, Australia in 1975. He was named after Christopher Lee, who played Dracula, so horror was destined in his blood from an early age. However, it wasn't until in his 30s that Chris decided to write and direct horror films. His first experience as a film writer, producer and director was his debut feature, Come and Get Me, in 2010. But it was in 2012 that his second feature film, Daddy's Little Girl, was released and distributed by Ego Entertainment Australia, Breaking Glass Pictures USA, and Alamode Film Distribution Germany, and others. Sent ripples across the independent film industry in Australia and made waves internationally. Charlie's Farm, Chris's third feature film, secured Shoreline Entertainment as a sales agent, selling Charlie's Farm all over the globe and playing in over 25 film festivals around the world. Where most horror filmmakers struggle with practical special effects, Chris excels, adding more production value to his projects by drawing on his extensive special effects artist skill set. No wonder Chris is fast becoming master of horror in Australia. After Charlie's Farm was released, Chris wrote his first novel, Ed. Ed is published by Source Point Press out of the USA and has sold over 3,000 hard copies in Australia alone. In 2018, Chris completed his fourth feature film, Boar. Boar is a story of a monster pig the size of a minivan who rampages through the Australian outback, destroying anything and killing anyone in his path. With the success of Charlie's Farm internationally, Universal Pictures Australia were quick to secure the Australian distribution rights for Boar, with AMC/Shudder taking the rights in the USA, placing Boar on billboards and taxicabs throughout New York and the USA. Boar went on to become the fifth best-selling horror film in Australia for 2018 and has secured distribution deals all over the world. So that's a little bit of insight into Chris Sun. This is sourced directly from his own website. It's better when someone reads it to you, innit? Well, Chris Sun has been a film director I've always been interested in watching. His filmography, though not as extensive as the likes of my previous retrospectives, like Jesse V. Johnson's, which I still haven't completed, nor have I completed Uwe Ball's. Maybe that's for the best, I don't know. But when I realised that Chris Sun had his own website and you could get signed goods, I was like, I'm into it. So I got his second, his third and his fourth movie. Well, his fourth I had already watched on DVD, which was released by Fright Fest Presents in 2018, but to have it on Blu-ray, mwah. So, let's go through let's go in line in order of me watching them. First up is Daddy's Little Girl.
Have you seen my daughter? No, sorry, I haven't. What about you? Have you seen my daughter, Georgia? Blonde hair. She's only small, 6 years old.
No, sorry, I haven't seen anything.
Oh, come on! Has anyone seen anything? You're a child killer. Rapist. Pedophile. You're scum! How old was Georgia?
She was 6.
For every year she was alive, you're gonna get tortured for a whole day. 6 years equals 6 days. When I say torture, I mean I'm gonna cause you so much fucking pain. You wish you were never born. Well, that's where this comes into it.
I say execute the bastards and done with it.
Do you want me to leave this or take it out?
We have a big day tomorrow.
how much you love your daddy.
To the moon and back.
Fuck. This didn't, I went in thinking it was going to be your average revenge thriller, an almost exploitation, revenge, horror. I thought it was going to be in the dusty plains of Australia, manhunting the killer of his daughter. Completely polar opposite from what I expected. If you want to know the plot is a story about a single father who has a bond quite unlike any other with his 6-year-old daughter, which is beautifully displayed in the movie. And this is about his response to the most heinous of crimes. Derek would do anything for his 6-year-old daughter until she is suddenly torn from his life. As he comes to terms with his grief, he discovers the one responsible was closer than he ever imagined. What would you do? I'm not going to lie, I would probably do the same as the character in this. If I knew that someone went out their way to harm someone, even if it was an acquaintance, that, you know, something vengeful in me, I can relate. Maybe I'm just psychotic. Yeah. But the levels that this father, Derek, goes, played by Michael Thompson, whom, if you're in the UK, will know from Holby City, I believe, who's sensational. There's so many levels. You understand the bond between him and his daughter. There's the undercurrent of a fractured family unit, quite a recent development. The cracks in his social life, his financial life. But the only thing that is a centre and a solid is his daughter. And the relationship between him and the young gal actress, is just sublime. You think he has a very solid unit around him, that kind of comes undone quickly. And you would say by his own hand, but quite rightfully. I don't really want to go and spoil this, but it's bleak, it's nihilistic, and it's violent, and it is fucking brilliant. What I like is Chris Sun uses this as an entranceway to basically pose the biggest question. These sick fuckers get off quite lightly. Who this character of Derek captures, he's like, I'm not going to let you go off lightly. And he pulls out loads of facts and almost police reportings, and he lists their crimes, and what he deals out to the person he ends up capturing. You get the sense and that feel that most of the people of whom any normal sane person would get that vengeful feel, whether it's the James Bulger situation or the victims of Fred and Rose West or Dennis Nielsen or so many other, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy. You think, how far would we go as an individual? How far will vengeance push us to lose our own ideals? And I'm watching this and I'm going, yeah, torture the fucker, torture him, make him go through that pain. And he's not just doing it on the behalf of his daughter, who is visiting in visions. He's doing it on the behalf of every other lost soul to a serial killer, rapist, paedophile, psycho, madman. And the thing what I really like about it is Derek plays it off very humourfully. And that tonal balance is pure Aussie sense of humour, dark humour, gallows humour, but also fitting. He has to unleaden that burden of losing some part of himself whilst in this almost weird, dislocated, almost overindulged delusion that my daughter is with me and she wants me to see this to its conclusion. But then there are fractures in that delusion. The daughter says, why are you hurting? Da-da-da. He's like, I have to make him pay. The script is so strong. There are a couple of performers that you're like, okay. But overall, it's beautifully lit. Great score. The film score is by Mark Blythe.
So wrong.
Blimith. Mark Smith or Smithy. Please, I'm sorry. Pronunciations ain't my bag. You'd think they would be, considering I'm a writer and an author. But anyway, Chris works with the same creative team, whether editor, film composer. A lot of his cast members come back, and you can tell he's got his own unit. He's got his own tight-knit unit, and, you know, it's under the Slaughter FX production banner. And the graphics, the makeup, the effects, the prosthetics, the gore, it isn't gratuitous in the sense of a Saw movie. It's pseudo-realistic, but pseudo-dislocated enough not for you to totally want to turn it off. I loved it. I think it is a very daring, very well written, very well performed, very, very tightly and very concise, punctually cut movie. So for Daddy's Little Girl, I will have to give it 5 stars. The more I sit and mull it over, I'm like, it's perfection. And I really am interested to see if Chris Sun is going to go into that avenue again. Low stakes, in the sense of we've not got big boar monsters and we've not got Australia's version of Jason Voorhees. And it'd be good to see if he will go back to that, making violent, brutalist dramas, because I feel that's what it is. It's a melodrama. It's a psychological thriller. It's so many things. Underrated special film. You get a sense that it probably is to the filmmakers and those involved. You can't call it bad. That's what I'm going to say. It's just superb. It's sublime. Next up is Charlie's Farm.
Are we really going to go to this Charlie's Farm place?
Yes, we are. It's going to be awesome.
Now, Charlie's Farm is in the vein of an iconic slasher film. You know the classics, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Adam Green's Hatchet series. Charlie's Farm is described as simultaneously menacing, thrilling and fun. Get ready to bask in the glory of its gory magnificence. And yeah, it's the R-rated film Australia's been dying for, said Cinema Australia. And I could get behind that. This is a complete tonal shift. Though there are certain moments where it feels it's too self-serious, but then with this, I think Chris Sun knows when things are veering towards the side of too pathosy. Is that a word? In the writing, the execution, it's about a bunch of friends that end up taking their girlfriends or would-be girlfriends to this infamous farm where a mutant child born from cannibal parents is left to his own devices, and cliched, trope riddled. But what this film has is it's a 7-foot, 170 pounds of pure Aussie killing machine madness in the form of Nathan Jones. And I'm going, Nathan Jones, I recognise you.
I had a baby brother. I had a little baby brother. And it was perfect.
He was in Mad Max as a humongous character. But Charlie's Farm, it's in the vein of those 80s horror films, just translated in Australia with that Australian bent, with that Australian humour. I love Australian humour. It's irrelevant. It's almost surrealistic. It's sometimes Monty Python. Sometimes it's too dark for its own good. I just love it. It's funny. And as usual, the creature and makeup effects work from Steve Doyle and his department. It's up there. I feel the only downside to this, I'm sorry, I feel bad criticising indie films of when so much more work goes into it, so much more passion than bigger productions. But I feel sometimes it took too long. But then sitting back and then thinking on it, I'm like, Chris Sun's doing this deliberately. He's hitting these beats deliberately while subverting them and infusing them with his sensibilities, his own cinematic aesthetic and style. And I think that's fucking brave, and I think that's very unique. And though there are moments where you're like, oh, please, just go somewhere. Some jokes land, other jokes don't, but then again, the tongue is firmly in cheek. There are certain moments, much like in Boar, where you're like, I don't give a fuck about these characters. They're cannon fodder. There's nothing to them. They're just there to die. I mean, the arseholey characters get killed off lickety-split in Boar, whereas there's a little bit more character development here. Tara Reid, isn't it? And I think Tara Reid gets a short end of the stick when it comes to her career. Like, she stars in a lot of crap and deliberate shit that is put out there for the people who sup on that type of genre, like Sharknado. But she gives the emotion, she's squealy and annoying, but I don't think people give her enough credit. She gives the emotional beats and emotional punches. There's so many good death gags here. As soon as Charlie Wilson himself... Oh, there's sellotape on it. What is this sellotape made of? Charlie Wilson, who steals the show, who steals the film, played by Nathan Jones. Look at him, little bobblehead. It's so detailed. This is like the most gorgeous bobblehead ever. Charlie Wilson, the sibling of the Wilson clan.
Wow.
That they've kept hidden in Australia. Wow.
Wow.
Look, it's so great. It's also signed. Look at the detail. I love it. Bible for me, baby. Bible. It's so good. The star of the show is Nathan Jones's own take on the Jason Voorhees horror monster. That big, huge, imposing phantom. But the difference is, Nathan Jones holds himself in a certain way. It's comedic, but it's also threatening. Does so much through that makeup as well. And he really shows his strengths as a performer outside of just wearing prosthetics and makeup and being a opposing presence. In Boar, he really shows that he's a multifaceted guy. But Charlie Wilson, I really wish that this movie hit in a way like the Hatchet films did, that we get multiple sequels, because he's more intimidating than Victor Crowley. He's far more kooky, far more interesting, and there's a greater story to be told with old Charlie Wilson. Hey, mate. Don't fuck me up. So yeah, also he fights off against Kane Hodder, which is like one of the most badass on-screen fights that you're ever going to see, mano a mano. And Kane Hodder's a multifaceted performer. It's nice to see him not clad in makeup and actually getting to be Kane Hodder playing a character. And a lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't stretch that much. If you don't believe Kane Hodder can stretch whatever they assume he can't stretch as a performer and an actor and a presence, watch him in Holliston, the television series, playing himself. Whoa. But yeah, Charlie's Farm, it fell short in certain moments, but I love Charlie Wilson so much, and I really wish there were sequels. I want to see more of this, and if there was anything going forward in the sequels, lean on him even more. Just Charlie Wilson, maybe from a different angle, from Charlie Wilson's perspective, the mundanity of his lives until, his victims are there, and he's like, shit! But yeah, I will give Charlie's Farm 3 stars, and that's not me saying you shouldn't watch it, it's a recommendation. I feel that to give it 4 stars would be overstating or may come across disingenuous. It's really good, it's really fun, but there's certain moments and certain pacing issues that I just felt it lacked. And now we're going on to Boar.
Okay, cabin fever is officially set in. I suggest the next town we come to, we pull over and get some grub.
Good idea. Sounds great.
Someone's been tearing the fences down there at the old Patterson's farm, man.
He's down a few sheep too. Something's killed him, yeah.
Well, what, all 9 of them?
I was driving back from Bob's place in my truck, and I saw something in the paddock, about 300 or 400 metres off, and I hit the spotty on it. It was a boar.
Now, Boar, I watched this ages ago when I was on a big horror DVD binge. Because a lot of these good indie films don't get their dues. Like, luckily Fright Fest Presents puts them out on DVD, but we don't get them on Blu-ray. So, finding out that Chris Sun has his own website, which you should check out. Also, don't forget to head over to Chris Sun's very own website, where as you can see, you can get a whole variety of things. You can get signed posters, merchandise, mementos from his films, props from his films like Charlie's Farm and Boar, signed posters, some handcrafted lamps, It's all pretty awesome. Real good value, and also the delivery is quite quick. And Chris Sun goes above and beyond. I went on his site and brought a whole bunch. Not only are the Blu-ray cases signed, the discs are signed. And when I opened up the novel that I brought of his called Ed, he dedicated it to myself. He went above and beyond. And get it from the source. Support independent filmmakers like Chris Sun. You won't be disappointed. And it's a nifty website and all. So don't forget to go to the official Chris Sun website and treat yourself to a few things. And not only that, ensure that the money goes straight to Chris's production company's pocket, which is Slaughter FX. He also has a clothing line as well. You should definitely check out. So, Boar is basically set in a harsh yet beautiful Australian outback. And out in this outback lives a beast, an animal of staggering size with a ruthless driving need for blood and destruction. It cares for none, defends its territory, brutal force, and kills with a raw, animalistic savagery unlike any have seen before. Nothing more than a myth, a legend brought to life by a drunken local, the beast ventures closer to civilization, closer to life, and ultimately closer to death. It's brutal, it's bloodthirsty, it's Boar. And you're definitely not bored during this. The puppetry, the animatronic of the Boar itself, fuck me. I know they try to do it as much in camera, but the CGI for a movie this low budgeted, wow.
Wow.
Also, a character appears, Bruce, and I'm like, damn, I recognise you. I should know your name. And even though this actor's name appeared in the title sequence, I'm like, where is he? Where's Bill Moseley? And then all of a sudden I'm like, Bill Moseley without a beard. Why can my brain not distinguish that from that? It's just facial hair. And it's so nice to see him in a different role instead of being a villain. He was a villain in Charlie's Farm, playing Charlie Wilson's father in a very short, extended cameo role, but that was a really disturbing sequence where Charlie's father is basically torturing and soliloquying this young woman he just raped. Really funny, but really haunting. And that sense of humour and heightened sense and scope and style of the film is very much inherent in Boar. But what I like most about Boar is you have really good actors, really, really good actors like John Jarratt, Chris Hayward, and Roger Ward, and so many great Australian actors, character actors. And where the film shines for me is in that family unit. The family in this movie that initially is going over to visit Nathan Jones's character, who is a huge beast of a man, which is always alluded to and referred to. But what Nathan Jones does in this role is, he's so funny. He uses that imposing presence if and when it suits his character. He uses brute force if and when it's necessary, and he uses that archetypal form and structure. There's no ego there. It's just fucking hilarious. He's the only motherfucker in this film that you can really go, he's the only one who can survive the Boar. It's not a boring film. Okay, I'm going to stop saying that. It's not a bad film at all. It's a really good film. Gory, violent, with usual co-stars and supporting casts and cameos from people we've seen in the rest of Chris Sun's oeuvre and filmography. It is fun. It's like an old-fashioned monster movie, a monster mash movie, and it's so pure Aussie. It's Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Aussie! Aussie!
It is so bloody Aussie, and I loved it. I really loved it. The camera angles, the lighting, the cut, the editing, and the film score. There's certain moments where there's music trilling over the lush pastures of Australian farmland, and there's like that Hallmark TV music. It's just so tongue-in-cheek, self-aware, but never to the degree that it's a parody, never to the degree that you're looking into the lens and winking. But I think that's the ingenuity of Chris. He knows when to play those moments and when to heighten those moments. And even though I didn't like the family unit in the sense of the son and the daughter. I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in the daughter's boyfriend and his relationship with Bruce, who happens to be his stepdad. And there was a confrontation between those two characters at some point in the film before a surprising death. And again, as usual, strong writing from Chris, very strong directing. And I just loved the showdown between the Boar and Nathan Jones. Boar is a real solid 4-star movie. It's got a callback, but it's also got a modern edge to it, where movies like this, when not maintained or not as in control of the source materials they are homaging or evolving, it does fall into farce and parody, but I loved it. I really loved it. I was really entertained. And more so by the characters, the Australian wit, the Australian archetypes. But they're archetypes because it's reality. But yeah, it's those 3 films, spot on. Even though Charlie's Farm is 3 stars, I recommend these 3 films. Before I wrap this all up, don't forget, go on to Slaughter FX's website, because you can get signed goodies. Like not only is the case signed, so is the Blu-ray. Yeah, it's awesome. It's so cool. And Chris Sun obviously loves his fans, and yeah, just do well by him, and he'll do well by you as a filmmaker. But yeah, don't forget to do the usual. Hit that bell for the notification bell, and ultimately subscribe. And don't forget to head over to Chris Sun's official website, because treat yourself. Anyway, that's me done. What do you think, Charlie? Cool.